Welcome to This Explainer. You know, if you grew up watching sports in the 90s or early 2000s, the way we consume baseball today is literally light years away from how we did it back then. Today, we're unpacking those massive structural and technological shifts in sports media, and we're going to view it all through the lens of Karl Ravech's absolutely incredible 33-year career. So think about it. What actually happens to our nightly sports routines when an iconic era of television just comes to an abrupt halt? Because for decades, millions of fans had their evenings perfectly bookended by the familiar sights and sounds of dedicated highlight shows. When those vanish, it isn't just a schedule change, right? It's a fundamental shift in fan culture.
33 years. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That is the immense longevity of Karl Ravech. He spent 33 years at ESPN, surviving just countless shifts in the industry before his really surprising layoff on July 21st, 2026. Surviving in the television business for over 3 decades is an absolute rarity, and honestly, it makes Ravech the perfect anchor for our story today.
Now, you might assume the guy was born with the mic in his hand, but actually, Ravech's origin story doesn't involve him dreaming of doing play-by-play in his backyard. He grew up in Needham, Massachusetts, playing sports for sure, but the idea of broadcasting them on national television wasn't some lifelong, laser-focused childhood ambition. He even told Binghamton University's pipe dream that he was definitely not one of those kids doing fake play-by-play. What's fascinating is the absolute practicality behind it all. A guidance counselor literally just advised him to combine his love for writing and playing sports. So he went out, got a communications degree from Ithaca College, later a master's from Binghamton, and basically treated broadcasting as a craft to be learned rather than a childhood fantasy.
And man, once he started, his climb through the local news ranks was incredibly rapid. He starts in 1987 as a sports anchor and reporter at WBNG in Binghamton, New York. Just 3 short years later, he jumps to WHTM in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And remarkably, by 1993, boom, he had already landed in Bristol, Connecticut, sitting right there at the SportsCenter desk alongside Craig Kilborn.
But here's the crazy part about his big break. It basically came down to sheer dumb luck. Ravech didn't initially target ESPN. As the story goes, his wife actually had a job interview near Bristol. She convinced him that, hey, since he was tagging along for the ride anyway, he had nothing to lose by setting up a meeting with the ESPN brass. He took a shot in the dark, and well, it completely altered the trajectory of sports television.
Because that accidental interview positioned Ravech perfectly. By 1996, he became the primary host and face of Baseball Tonight, right as the sports highlight show was entering its absolute golden age. He was sitting exactly at the intersection of a booming sport and a booming network.
If you were a fan back then, you absolutely know the struggle. You were probably shielding your eyes from that torturously slow bottom-line ticker on your screen, just praying you wouldn't get spoiled. Baseball Tonight was an absolute daily necessity. Hearing that iconic 7-note theme song meant you were about to get 30 to 60 minutes of dedicated coverage. For out-of-market fans, this was literally your only lifeline to see your favorite players, and it was all complemented by legendary analysis from guys like Peter Gammons and Buster Olney.
And they didn't just report on the game, right? They shaped its culture. They made great defensive plays incredibly cool by dedicating specific nightly segments to them. This single-handedly etched the term web gem into the minds of an entire generation. If a shortstop made a crazy diving catch, the immediate thought across the whole country was, oh yeah, that is definitely going to be a web gem tonight.
But, as essential as Baseball Tonight felt, the ground beneath it was totally shifting. The very network that championed it was changing, and the technology delivering the sport was evolving at warp speed. Just think about the stark contrast for a second. In the 1990s, you waited up until midnight slogging through commercial breaks just to catch maybe 45 seconds of your team's highlights. Compare that to the 2020s. You are instantly watching every home run, every strikeout, and every single web gem on your smartphone the exact second it happens. The fundamental value proposition of the highlight show was just disappearing. The real irony here is that baseball's own technological innovations systematically fractured the highlight show's audience. In 2001, MLB Extra Innings drops and gives out-of-market fans live games. By 2002, MLB.TV brought us streaming. Then smartphones exploded, and finally, in 2009, we saw the launch of MLB Network with its own multi-hour highlight show, MLB Tonight. Combine all of that with ESPN actively shifting its massive budget toward NFL and NBA contracts, and the nightly highlight show simply ran out of room.
So Baseball Tonight eventually gets reduced to a weekly Sunday pregame show. But Karl Ravech's legacy, it goes far beyond a single television format. The guy absolutely refused to just fade away with the nightly highlights.
Ravech's resilience is absolutely incredible. We really have to remember he survived a heart attack back in November 1998 when he was just in his early 30s. It was a terrifying moment, but he pushed through it and continually evolved his role at the network over the decades. He returned to become a staple, calling the Little League World Series, covered the College World Series, and eventually stepped up as the primary play-by-play voice for Sunday Night Baseball from 2022 to 2025.
And get this, 22. That number represents the exact age his son, Sam Ravech, became the youngest play-by-play broadcaster at ESPN in 2017 after calling a Tulane men's basketball game. Talk about literally passing the broadcasting torch to the next generation, right? It just embeds the Ravech name even deeper into the fabric of sports media.
If there is one massive takeaway from this whole story, it's Ravech's sheer, infectious passion for the daily grind of baseball. He once told a story about a 5-year-old boy on an ESPN studio tour whose mother told Ravech to explain if he actually enjoyed his job. And Ravech's response was just simple but profound. Loving what you are doing is the greatest part of the job. That passion totally translated through the screen for 33 years. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. As we look at the modern landscape today and celebrate the absolute convenience of sports media, the on-demand clips, the instant notifications, the streaming apps, have we lost something along the way? Have we lost that shared, unifying magic of sitting on the couch late at night, just waiting for those 7 iconic notes to play? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.